In this day and age, modern supermarket aisles are scientifically engineered to keep your blood sugar in a perpetual state of chaos. Food manufacturers intentionally traded our biological health for processed carbohydrates and artificial convenience. But long before we faced this modern metabolic crisis, ancient civilizations already understood exactly how to balance the body. They used specific foods to manage blood glucose levels. Today, we will walk through 7 of these forgotten remedies. Keep watching, because there is a tiny seed used to describe the bread from heaven. Modern research confirms it actively stimulates the pancreas to manage sudden sugar spikes. Item 7. Vinegar. When Boaz invited Ruth to eat with his harvesters in the 2nd chapter of Ruth, he offered her roasted grain. He told her to dip her bread in the vinegar. This was not just a flavor preference for ancient field workers. It was a calculated metabolic strategy for sustained endurance under the punishing midday sun. The secret to this endurance lies in a sour liquid compound called acetic acid. Acetic acid physically blocks the specific digestive enzymes in your stomach that break starches down into sugar. It signals your body to absorb the carbohydrates slowly, instead of flooding your bloodstream all at once. Consuming this sour liquid before a carbohydrate-heavy meal measurably reduced the resulting blood sugar spike. The European Journal of Clinical Nutrition published that finding in 2005. Ancient harvesters understood exactly how to pace their biological energy. You can recreate this by stirring 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar into a tall glass of water before eating dinner. A simple peasant meal contained the exact biological tool we now desperately need. The vinegar Boaz gave his harvesters was slowing their blood sugar before they knew what blood sugar was. Ruth ate that same grain from those same fields. What she carried home was a metabolic anchor the ancient world had relied on for centuries. Item 6. Barley. The ancient working class survived on a very specific and coarse grain that the modern world largely abandoned for highly refined wheat. Moses listed barley as one of the foundational foods of the Promised Land in Deuteronomy chapter 8. It was also the primary crop Ruth gathered from the fields. The ancient world relied on barley because it acts as a thick and protective metabolic anchor in your digestive tract. This anchoring effect is driven by a specialized plant fiber called beta-glucan. When beta-glucan enters your stomach, it absorbs water and forms a thick gel. This gel physically slows down how fast your body can process the sugar in your meal. It blunts the blood sugar impact with a consistent and measurable effect that clinical studies have confirmed repeatedly. Eating barley significantly improved how well cells respond to blood sugar and lowered blood sugar levels for hours after the meal. The British Journal of Nutrition published that finding in 2012. You can experience this by replacing modern white rice with whole hulled barley in your next evening's soup or stew. We traded a genuinely protective biblical staple for processed grains that leave our metabolism completely defenseless. Barley was the backbone of the ancient Middle Eastern table. The civilization that built the most advanced medical records of the ancient world was treating metabolic disease with a completely different seed entirely. Item 5. Fenugreek. Egyptian healers documented a very specific physical condition thousands of years ago that sounded exactly like modern metabolic weakness. They called it the sweet disease. To combat this condition, they relied heavily on a golden and deeply aromatic seed. The Ebers Papyrus from 1550 BC details exactly how these ancient physicians prescribed fenugreek to restore metabolic balance. The biological power of fenugreek comes from a unique amino acid found specifically in this seed. This protein-building block physically improves how well your cells respond to blood sugar. That means it helps the cells in your muscles open up and absorb sugar from your bloodstream much more efficiently. Patients consuming fenugreek seed powder saw a significant and measurable drop in their fasting blood sugar levels. The European Journal of Clinical Nutrition published that result in 2001. Ancient Egyptian healers were successfully treating blood sugar dysfunction millennia before modern endocrinology existed. Soak a teaspoon of fenugreek seeds in warm water overnight. and drink the liquid first thing in the morning. The ancient world had real answers for the exact metabolic crises we face today. An ancient Egyptian seed physically changes how your cells respond to blood sugar. If you are tired of trusting heavily processed foods marketed for blood sugar health, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. You absolutely need to hear about the surprising biblical seed coming up in Item 4. Item 4. Coriander. Coriander was one of the most deliberately cultivated and fiercely protected herbs in the ancient agricultural world. Every great civilization that grew, it understood it as a fundamental biological stabilizer for the human stomach. The ancient Israelites did not simply scatter it across their fields. They cultivated it with the same precision they applied to their most valuable medicines. This humble seed also possesses powerful properties that stimulate your pancreas. The pancreas is the organ responsible for releasing the exact hormones needed to manage sudden sugar loads. This pancreatic support is driven by two potent botanical compounds called quercetin and linalool. Together, they help your body manage sugar spikes and may support more stable energy in the hours that follow. Laboratory research demonstrated that coriander extract measurably supported pancreatic function and reduced blood sugar levels in the conditions studied. The Journal of Food Science published that finding in 2012. That explains exactly why this seed was so deeply revered in biblical times. Crush whole coriander seeds and use them as a savory rub for roasted meats or vegetables. What the ancient world grew for flavor and preservation, modern research is now studying for its precise effects on blood sugar management. Coriander was so familiar across the ancient world, it served as a universal point of reference. The next remedy comes from the opposite side of the ancient world, ancient India, and the condition its physicians were treating had a name we still recognize today. Item 3. Bitter melon. Ancient Eastern physicians recognized the physical signs of blood sugar dysfunction thousands of years before the invention of the blood test. Around 600 BC, they documented a condition they literally called sweet urine. To fight it, they prescribed an intensely bitter and bumpy green fruit. That fruit is bitter melon. Modern researchers discovered that this ancient Eastern remedy contains a highly specialized plant compound called charantin. Charantin activates the exact same cellular pathways used by your own natural insulin. It signals your body to move excess sugar out of your bloodstream and safely into your cells for energy. Bitter melon extract measurably improved how effectively the body handled a sudden rise in blood sugar. A clinical trial confirmed that, published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology in 2011. An ancient medical tradition had correctly identified a powerful metabolic regulator. You can find bitter melon tea at most Asian markets and drink a small cup after a heavy carbohydrate meal. We spend fortunes trying to artificially force our blood sugar down when ancient physicians had already mapped this exact pathway centuries ago. Ancient Eastern physicians were treating the sweet disease with bitter fruit. The next item moved in the opposite direction entirely. Not bitter, but precious. Not prescribed, but traded. The wealthiest rulers on earth competed for it. Item 2. Cinnamon. When the Queen of Sheba and other rulers brought tribute to King Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 10, they brought massive quantities of prized spices. Cinnamon was considered an absolute luxury and a profound medicine in the ancient world. Today we sprinkle it on sweet rolls without realizing it is actually a potent metabolic shield. The active biological compound inside this tree bark is called cinnamaldehyde. Cinnamaldehyde actively signals your muscle cells to open their doors and absorb blood sugar directly from the bloodstream. This process measurably reduces your overall blood sugar levels after a meal. Consuming just a small amount of cinnamon daily significantly lowered fasting blood sugar. Diabetes Care published that finding in 2003. It is crucial to use Ceylon cinnamon rather than the common cassia variety. Cassia contains a compound called coumarin, which prompted safety advisories from European health authorities limiting it to 1 teaspoon a day. Ceylon cinnamon is far safer for daily use. Stir half a teaspoon of true Ceylon cinnamon into your morning coffee or oatmeal. The wealthiest kings of the ancient world guarded this spice for a very good biological reason. Kings traded caravans of cinnamon to protect their metabolic health. The next seed was even more carefully guarded than cinnamon. The prophet Isaiah wrote instructions for how to harvest it without destroying it. He knew something precious was inside. Item 1. Black cumin. In the 28th chapter of Isaiah, the prophet describes the incredibly precise and careful methods used to harvest a specific botanical medicine. He explains that fitches must be beaten out gently with a staff rather than crushed by a heavy cartwheel. We know fitches today as black cumin or Nigella sativa. This careful ancient harvesting protected a fragile and potent seed that modern endocrinology is now studying intensely. The profound protective power of black cumin comes from a specialized plant molecule called thymoquinone. Early-stage laboratory research has identified thymoquinone as being measurably protective of the precise pancreatic cells responsible for producing insulin. While this is still early animal model research, the findings show this compound actively shields these vital cells from metabolic stress and damage. Thymoquinone actively shielded insulin-producing cells from metabolic stress and damage in early-stage laboratory conditions. The British Journal of Pharmaceutical Research detailed that mechanism in 2013. For the first time, modern science had a framework for explaining why this tiny seed was so carefully prized across the ancient Middle East. Purchase pure, cold-pressed black seed oil and take half a teaspoon daily with food. A seed Isaiah wrote about is showing early promise as a protector of the most vulnerable metabolic cells. That is still early science, but 27 centuries of documented use says it is worth following closely. 5,000 years ago, on opposite sides of the ancient world, physicians who had never met each other and would never speak the same language were all arriving at the same conclusion. The body needed specific botanical anchors to stay balanced. Vinegar before a meal, bitter fruit after sweet food, coarse grain instead of refined flour, black seeds harvested with the precision of a surgeon. They did not have laboratories. They did not have clinical trials. They had observation, time, and an understanding of the human body that the modern processed food industry dismantled in a single generation. Please remember that these are foods and plants with thousands of years of documented use and peer-reviewed research behind them, not medical prescriptions. But 5,000 years of independent human agreement is its own kind of evidence. The ancient world did not arrive at these answers by accident. They arrived at them because the answers work. The exact botanical tools designed to support our metabolism were never lost. We simply stopped looking for them in the places they were always growing. Which of these ancient remedies surprised you the most? Have you ever tried using true Ceylon cinnamon or apple cider vinegar to support your own blood sugar? Let me know down in the comments, because I read every single one of them. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on this forgotten wisdom. Click the video on your screen right now to discover the specific ancient foods that actively support your joint health from the inside out.